For 7 years, Sarah's world had been a silent orbit around the radiant sun that was the Davenport family. She was a ghost in the machine of their perfect lives, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the gentle swish of the dishwasher, the invisible hand that straightened the velvet cushions and kissed the foreheads of children who were not her own. Her official title was Nanny, but in the hushed, opulent corridors of the Davenport's Greenwich estate, she was simply the help. A black woman in a world so white it seemed to absorb all color, leaving her feeling like a shadow. The hook, when it came, was not a gentle tug but a violent, gut-wrenching yank. It arrived in the form of a crisp, cream-colored envelope, embossed with the logo of the Global Education and Innovation Summit, a gathering of the world's most influential minds. It was addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Davenport and guest. That a guest, as it turned out, was her. "We thought it would be a nice gesture," Eleanor Davenport had said, her voice a tinkling melody of condescension that set Sarah's teeth on edge. "A little peek into our world. You've been so devoted to the children's early education, after all." Her husband, Richard, a man whose smile never quite reached his eyes, had clapped a hand on her shoulder, a gesture meant to convey camaraderie but which felt more like a brand. "Who knows, you might even learn something." And so, Sarah found herself standing in the cavernous, marble-floored lobby of a five-star hotel in downtown Manhattan, a lone, dark figure in a sea of bespoke suits and couture dresses. The air crackled with the energy of 1,000 conversations, each one a symphony of power and privilege. She clutched her worn leather-bound notebook to her chest, its pages filled with the observations and insights she had painstakingly collected over 7 years of invisible labor. It was her secret, her solace, her rebellion. The summit was a blur of keynote speakers and panel discussions, a relentless parade of self-congratulatory pronouncements on the future of education. Sarah listened, her pen flying across the pages of her notebook, a silent dissenter in a room full of nodding heads. They spoke of disruptive innovation and paradigm shifts, of leveraging technology and optimizing human capital. But not once did they speak of love. Not once did they mention the quiet, patient work of nurturing a child's soul. During a breakout session on early childhood development in the digital age, a renowned child psychologist, a woman with a string of best-selling books to her name, presented her latest research. It was a litany of data points and developmental milestones, a cold, clinical dissection of childhood. When the floor was opened for questions, a hand shot up in the back of the room. It was Sarah's. Her voice, when it came, was a quiet tremor in the vast, echoing space. "With all due respect, doctor," she began, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs, "your research seems to be missing a crucial element. You speak of cognitive development and motor skills, but what about the heart? What about the development of empathy, of kindness, of resilience?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. The psychologist, momentarily taken aback, offered a dismissive smile. "Of course, those things are important," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "But they are difficult to quantify." "Difficult, perhaps," Sarah countered, her voice gaining strength, "but not impossible. For 7 years, I have been a nanny to 2 children. I have seen them through scraped knees and broken hearts, through nightmares and triumphs. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that the most important lessons they have learned have not come from an app or a screen. They have come from being seen, from being heard, from being loved." A hush fell over the room. In that moment, Sarah was no longer a ghost. She was a force, a voice for the voiceless, a champion for the quiet, unglamorous work of raising human beings. The fallout was immediate. The Davenports were mortified. "What were you thinking?" Eleanor had hissed, her face a mask of fury. "You embarrassed us. You embarrassed yourself." But something had shifted in Sarah. The years of silent observation had finally found their voice. That night, back in her small, sparse room in the Davenport's sprawling estate, she began to write. She wrote of the quiet moments, the whispered secrets, the unspoken truths of a child's world. She wrote of the power of a hug, the magic of a bedtime story, the transformative power of unconditional love. She poured her heart and soul onto the pages, her words a torrent of pent-up frustration and hard-won wisdom. She wrote not as a psychologist or an academic, but as a woman who had been in the trenches, who had witnessed firsthand the messy, beautiful, heartbreaking reality of raising children. When she was finished, she had a manuscript. It was raw, it was honest, it was real. She sent it to a small, independent publisher, not daring to hope for a response. But a response came. And then another. And another. Her book, The Nanny's Notebook, A Different Kind of Education, became a word-of-mouth sensation. It was a quiet revolution, a rebellion against the cold, clinical approach to parenting that had become so prevalent. It was a love letter to the nannies, the caregivers, the unsung heroes who were shaping the next generation. The book's success was a shock to everyone, most of all to Sarah. She was invited to speak at conferences, to appear on television, to share her story with the world. She became a voice for a new kind of parenting, one that prioritized connection over competition, empathy over achievement. The Davenports, of course, were quick to claim her as their own. "We always knew she had it in her," Richard would say in interviews, his arm draped possessively around her shoulders. "We're so proud of what she's accomplished." But Sarah knew the truth. She had not been discovered, she had been forged. Forged in the fires of invisibility, of condescension, of a world that had tried to render her silent. Her success was not a testament to their generosity, but to her own resilience, her own unwavering belief in the power of love. One evening, as she was tucking the Davenport children into bed, the youngest, a little girl with wide, curious eyes, looked up at her and said, "Sarah, are you famous now?" Sarah smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached her eyes. "In a way, I suppose I am," she said. "But the most important job I'll ever have is right here, with you." And in that moment, she knew that she had found her true north. She was no longer a ghost in someone else's story. She was the author of her own, a woman who had taken the scraps of a life lived in the shadows and woven them into a tapestry of hope, of resilience, of love. Her journey was far from over. There would be more books, more speeches, more opportunities to share her message with the world. But she would never forget the lessons she had learned in the quiet, opulent corridors of the Davenports' Greenwich estate. She would never forget the two children who had taught her more about love than any book or any expert ever could. And she would never forget the power of a single, quiet voice to change the world. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our channel and giving this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us to continue telling stories that matter, stories that celebrate the unsung heroes and the quiet, everyday acts of courage that change the world.